Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Just getting ready for a wonderful Shabbat. Tuning a guitar is like life. Tuning a guitar is like life. Takes a while. You like my setup tonight? So pretty. Giving me a rough time. Wow. Shabbat Shalom. Is anybody here? Yoo-hoo. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's always exciting to see the first person. And the people that I see aren't the only people that are here. So I'm just going to sing a bit, get warmed up for Shabbat. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya 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 la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya Adir mamaro Adonai Yalla lai 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 Yalla lai Adir Bamaro. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's an auspicious Shabbat, but every Shabbat's auspicious. I'm going to allow people to make comments that I can see. Let's see what happens. Okay. It's almost Erev Pesach. Tomorrow night is Passover. And so let's talk a little bit about freedom, because this week there's a perfect thing to talk about in relation to freedom. And that is democracy. So the question is democracy, or does democracy have anything to do with morality, spirituality, and ethics? So just as an example, democracy is not perfect. If people vote for something, it doesn't necessarily make it right. We have a higher regard in democracy for the will of the people than necessarily what is right. The concept is that in democracy, the will of the people will emerge from the masses. And as you mix it all up and you mix up all the good inclination and the bad inclination, Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Ra, and you come up with the final product, which is imperfect, but mostly righteousness. So integral to democracy, which is integral to freedom, is the ability to hear and reflect the will of the masses. But when you prevent some of the masses from participating in the democratic process, then what you get is you get a slanted, jaded version, which is not exactly what we're looking for. So, in the democracy, the more people that vote, the better, the closer you get to the will of the people. And sometimes the people are wrong, but we have to basically hold faith that the inclination to do good and the inclination to do bad will balance out each other and will end up with the inclination to do good. So, what happens when freedom is restricted? And when freedom, which is the centerpiece of democracy, is interrupted, then you end up with a problem. And the problem is that the will of the people is no longer the will of the people. So, the initiation of some people to want to restrict voting so that other people can't vote, so that we will have less people voting the way other people want them to vote. In other words, you have people who are not voting the way the masses want them to vote, then you have problems. So anyway, point being made, the people who are restricting voting rights, who are legislating to restrict voting rights, are wrong. And so what happens is democracy only is compatible with ethics and morality and spirituality if mitigated by the masses. So what I'm saying here is that this Pesach, my wish will be that those that wish to do anything to restrict the freedom of people to vote for any reason, be it their color, their race, their religion, their creed, their orientation, their choices, their way of living, their style of life, their style of loving, whatever it is, that moves us away from freedom. It moves us away from morality. It moves us away from spirituality. It moves us away from ethical behavior. So, when I read today that it is now a misdemeanor in the state of Georgia to offer water or food to someone waiting in a long line at a voting place, while meanwhile eliminating places for people to drop off their ballots so they don't have to wait in line, so they don't have to need water, so that people don't have to get a misdemeanor to give them water or food. This is a deliberate infringement upon freedom. And when the freedom of one person is impeded, the freedom of all is impeded. And when one person is a slave, we are all responsible and we are all slaves. We are slaves to the tragedy of the idea that you can enslave another person. So I would like to dedicate tonight's Shabbat candles and this Pesach to the freedom to vote as being compatible and necessary for a righteous, ethical, moral, and spiritual existence. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Such a beautiful tune for the blessing over the candles. I'm going to put us on one more platform just to make sure that we're on. And I will do that by just going back and ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba ya ba 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 ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba bim bam, ya ba ba ya ba 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 bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba bim bam. Ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba ya ba 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 ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba bim bam, ya ba ba ya ba 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 bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba ya ba 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 ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba bim bam. Ya ba ba ya ba 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 bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ya ba ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ya ba bim bam. Ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ya ba ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ya ba bim bam. Eli, Eli, shelo yegamer leolam. Ako v'hayam rishu shel hamayim ve'akashamayim tfilat ako v'hayam rishu shel hamayim ve'akashamayim Shabbat shalom to Phil. Shabbat shalom to Gina. Shabbat shalom to Joan. Lord my God, I pray that these things never stand and to see the wrath of the watchers, the flash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the flash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. I'm not sure if we just came on for some people, but if you missed the blessing of the candles, there's no harm in doing it twice. Hi, Mom. Hi, Gina. Did this just come online for you guys? Did this just come online for you guys, or was it on already? Because I had it streaming, but I noticed that there were a lot of people. Now suddenly there are. So I'm wondering if those of you that are seeing me right now, some of you are just seeing me start. So if you could let me know, that would be great. With a little note you can type in. Anyway, the blessing over the candles is so beautiful, and I have it set up in a beautiful way tonight with this lovely background and plants and flowers and such. So I'm going to do the blessing over the candles one more time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. If we should lose the feed, go to the Facebook called Jewish Community Center, Sonoma County. Or you can go to YouTube, Rick Konkoff's channel. And hopefully it'll stay on for everybody. For those of you that didn't hear the beginning part, just a reiteration, dedicating this Passover to freedom and to the freedom to vote freely, safely, fairly, and without restriction. And should we be moving in a regressive direction, that can all fall apart quickly. So it's up to us to do whatever we need to do to make voting possible for those who have a hard time getting to the polls. And why do I say this tonight? I say this because we have a state in our country that has legislated against certain people having the right to vote, which will undoubtedly be overruled by the Supreme Court. But in the meanwhile, what a scary thing. The question is ethics, morality, spirituality. Are they compatible with democracy? If people can vote for such a horrible arrangement, and it's not just legislatures that vote for horrible ideas, human beings vote for horrible ideas. And we have to fix that. So I just want to take a minute to tell you what my definitions of those words are. Okay. And some of you have heard this before. And hello, Phyllis. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Spirituality is this highest level. Spirituality is doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. Spirituality is going the distance. Spirituality is giving and fighting for other people's rights and feeding people who are not eating and supporting people. Spirituality is the ultimate give. And unfortunately, in case you didn't know, in our society, spirituality is optional. No one can command you to do those kind of deeds. That's up to the heart, the soul, and the mind. However, moving down to morality. So morality is having a belief that you believe in, that you want to impose on other people. So because I believe this is not okay, you shouldn't do it. Example, I believe that if someone should say, I believe that a man and woman, or man and a man, or a woman and woman should not live together before they're married, and therefore you shouldn't do that, that's the imposition of morality. That's dangerous. Ethics is the other flip side of do unto others as you would have them do it to you. Ethics is do not unto others that which would be hateful to you. So what is ethics saying? Ethics is saying just don't go out of your way to not prevent other people from their freedom, from doing what they want to do, as long as it's not impinging on what you want to do. So ethics is where it's at. And those are only compatible with democracy if everybody gets to participate. And if some people are prevented from participation, then suddenly it becomes corrupted. And we're not going to let that happen. I have my little grandchildren here in the background. And if they want to come around and say hi, they can. Everybody wants to see Emmy and Ansel. Are you guys in here?
Ansel's right here.
Come here, Ansel.
Ansel, you want to say hi on TV? Huh?
No, maybe not. A little shy, that's okay.
Not really.
Yedid nefesh avarachamon Meshach avdecha el retzonecha Yedid nefesh avarachamon Meshach avdecha el retzonecha Yarutz avdecha kemo hayam yishtachave el nur Yedi nefes Avarahamon Avarahamon Meshochakecha El Rechonecha El Rechonecha Yaruchakecha Kemoya Mishtapave El Hadarecha Ya la 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 Ya la 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 Ya la 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 Ya la 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 Ya la 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 If I had a hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over the land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out warning, I'd hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over the land. I'd ring out danger, I'd ring out a warning, I'd ring out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I sing out danger, I sing out warning, I sing out love between brothers and my sisters, all over this land. I've got a hammer, and I've got a bell, and I've got a song to sing all over this land. It's a hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's a song about love, my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Oh, so why did I sing that? Because it's about freedom. And Passover is about freedom. And tomorrow night we'll be singing some Passover songs. So shall we warm up with one? Ilu Hotzianu Miritraim, Hotzianu Mimitraim, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu natan lanu et Torah natan lanu et Torah dayenu 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 Ilu natan lanu et Shabbat natan lanu et Shabbat dayenu. Everyone now, dayenu, 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 little bit of a warm-up for tomorrow night. And by the way, hello, Maddie, sending you a heart and you a smile. So good to see you all tonight. The Shabbat before Passover celebrating freedom, and what a perfect time for a holiday like Passover. So every year we say, why? There's a lot of whys in Passover. Why do we do this? We're not slaves anymore. But if there is one slave, then we're all slaves. And if there's one person being paid an unlivable wage, then we are all slaves. And if there's one person who is being mistreated or abused or neglected or put aside, then we are all slaves. And if there's one person who is being restricted and prevented from participating or excluded in any way, then we are all slaves. And that's why we sing that we were once slaves and now we're free, but the freedom is temporary. And the freedom is only with us as long as we protect it. Avadim hayinu, ata benechorin, Avadim hayinu, ata benechorin, ata benechorin, Avadim hayinu, ata benechorin, Avadim chayenu, ata benechorin, ata benechorin. We were once slaves, and now we are free for the moment. And don't forget, as we do mention on every Pesach, the Shoah, Holocaust, that millions of people went along with this negative agenda in what seemed like or presented like a distorted charlatan of democracy. So just because people go along with it doesn't make it right. And that's why everybody has to speak, because if everybody speaks, we have better likelihood that things will come out right, as we have recently witnessed. Tomorrow night we'll be blessing 4 cups of grape juice, in my case, wine in some cases. Why? Because wine is a symbol of joy and restraint. And do you know that it's the same concept in Judaism, stands for strength and restraint? Same concept. Restraint and strength. Strength necessitates restraint. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitzanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinkilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom te'ilah lemikraye kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, v'iltanu kidashta, mikol amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava u'ratzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh Shabbat. So, what does it mean to be kosher for Pesach? There's all kinds of definitions of being kosher for Pesach. So I want to suggest that being kosher for Pesach is being awake for Pesach. Being awake for Pesach is being in touch with the core meaning. And the core meaning is that just because we have freedom doesn't mean that we rest until other people have freedom. As far as Moses' journey, I love this picture of Moses' journey, Moses' exodus, is that Moses did not make that journey. Moses is making the journey. And we are Moses, and we are making the journey up the mountain. And we don't really know what's up there. We think it's good. We think it's righteous. But we're braving to be up there. And Moses became disappointed when we came down because the majority of people chose idolatry. And if you don't think that idolatry exists in our world today, look around. Look around at how many people have an idolatrous relationship with an object, with an activity, with an addiction, with money, with drugs, alcohol, power, sex. And know that that in concert with what we're talking about, that addiction and all of those things I just mentioned are a kind of slavery. So how we become free is we work for it, we're awake for it, we're awake to it. And if there is one person in the world who is not free, then Passover is still relevant. So my recommendation to my students, and I'll share this with you, and hello Gabor, Shabbat Shalom. My recommendation to you is at some point on your Sabbath, on your Passover dinner, whether it's just you alone or it's virtual or it's with other people in a safe way, talk about this. Go around the table and each person share what ways are you free and what ways are you enslaved. Because if you swear all the time, you're enslaved to profanity, verbal profanity. And if you drink or drug all the time, you're enslaved by that. So I don't know if it needs to be a confessional 12-step program. What it does need to be is an acknowledgement to what we are slaves to, even if we're slaves to our fear or we're slaves to our anger. There's so many people that are slaves to their anger, slaves to their rage. And I say to people who suffer from the affliction of rage, don't rage, roar. And to roar is like a lion. When a lion roars, they're saying, Hineni, here I am. And boundaries. So roar, but don't rage, because rage is a woeful addiction. Uvros aleinu sukkot shlomecha uvros aleinu sukkot Ezri me'im Adonai Osei Shamayim Baretz. Ezri me'im Adonai Osei Shamayim Baretz. Esa einai elei arim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Esa einai elei arim me'ayin yavo Ezri. So one of my favorite little drashas is again about Moses and how pertinent it is to talk about Moses during or entering into Passover. And Moses was a shepherd and was taking his flock across the desert, along with many other shepherds, kind of in a lineup of sorts. And in the desert, there's sagebrush and tumbleweed, and it spontaneously will catch on fire. And that's accepted. That's understood. So Moses is walking along, and he looks up at a bush, and it is, in fact, burning. But what all the shepherds haven't noticed is that it's not being consumed by the flame. And so Moses looks at the bush and says, that's strange. And out of the bush pops an angel, and the angel says, Moses, God will speak to you. And God comes out and talks to Moses about God's plans for Moses to instruct the Jewish people how to live a righteous life, a good life, an ethical life. And if Moses hadn't been paying attention, had not been mindful and attentive, then Moses wouldn't have seen or noticed that the bush was not being consumed, and he would have missed that message. And so the meaning, I think, in that story is don't miss the message. We're only going to get one or two burning bushes in your whole life. So hopefully when they appear, you'll notice them. I always tell my students that's a good reason why not to chat and be distracted in class, because maybe in your whole education you're going to hear 2 or 3 or 4 incredibly profound, poignant things. Don't miss it. All the blossoms will cling to the vine. I'll taste your strawberries, I'll drink your sweet wine. A million tomorrows shall all pass away, ere I forget all the joys that are mine today. I'll be a dandy and I'll be a rover. You'll know who I am by the songs that I sing. I'll feast at your table, I'll sleep in your clover. Who cares what tomorrow may bring? Today, while the blossoms cling to the vine, I'll taste your strawberries, I'll drink your wine. Tomorrow shall pass away, ere I forget all the joys that are mine today. Hi! Hi! This is my granddaughter, Emmy. Do you want to step into the picture? That was so scary. My background began to erupt. Oh, and it's falling down. I feel like the Wizard of Oz, and they saw him behind the bush. We are on Shabbat, and all of these people on here are here, plus some more, and some of them are my family members.
You may want to say hi, everybody. Wait and say hi, everybody. Show your flower.
You guys want to hear a Shabbat song? How about a kid's Shabbat song?
Yeah.
Or do you have to go?
They've got to go.
Okay.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, guys.
No,
Bye.
no, that guy was wrong.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye. Well, watch out, Timber.
Yeah, I know. It's a Sabbath, right?
No, it's okay.
Candles are almost on Friday.
Bye, sweetie.
I'm fine.
Beautiful.
I know. We do candles
It's
at night.
beautiful.
Let's get back to
Bye.
He's got a pretty cool setup.
Yeah. Have a whole little studio. Okay, so it's not a real window. That was sweet. I'm glad you guys came in. Okay, then bye. Bye, you guys. I miss you. Okay, so we spent a wonderful week with our grandchildren, and when you get a Shabbat that's very impromptu, that's what you get. So that was Imogen, her little brother, Ansel, Jacob, and Jamie. What a Shabbat treat. It couldn't be nicer than that. Do a quick tuning. Last verse of today. And be contented with yesterday's glories. I can't live on promises, winter through spring. Today is my moment, and now is my story. I'll laugh and I'll cry and I'll sing. Today, while the blossoms still cling to the vine, I taste the strawberries, I'll drink your sweet wine. A million tomorrows shall pass away, ere I forget all the joys that are mine today. So the Shabbat service that I've provided, I think, close to 55 weeks in a row. The beauty of it is that I'm truly not doing it for hire. I'm doing it, it's a good saying. I'm not doing it for hire, I'm doing it for higher purposes. And that is to share with my family and my friends and anybody else who's ever interested a little bit of Shabbat, to send out healing blessings for Refuah Shlema to anybody who is ill in any way, and to send out condolences to anybody who has lost someone, and to send out love to anyone who is missing love, and to send out friendship and inclusion. And may this Passover lead us to freeing ourselves, and in freeing ourselves to freeing each other, and in freeing each other to free the people out there from whatever their afflictions and challenges are. So definitely a time for freedom, and definitely a time to also, hey, come on, I'm going to make a political statement at the end tonight. Let's stop making guns that shoot 40 bullets at a time, or 50 or 100, whatever it is. Nobody needs those. A 6-shooter is plenty. Good God. Let's hope that there's an end to that horrible blight of people taking the life of another person for whatever reason. We'll end with the Shema tonight. The Shema basically says we started out as one. We live as one, but we imagine that we're more than one. And when it's all done, we go back to the one. So the biggest word in the Shema, Echad, that's the important word. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. And I guess I could say the theme tonight is, may we make democracy compatible with ethics and morality and spirituality. And I didn't realize I was going to say this tonight, but roar, don't rage. That's a good saying. And I'm sure every one of you has someone in your life who does a little bit too much raging. And hopefully they can escape from that affliction, from that bondage, from that slavery. So let's as they say at summer camp, let's all be friends. Can we just do that? Because kindness is so much easier than meanness, and you can go to sleep at night and not regret being angry and nasty and snarky. So Shabbat Shalom. I'll see you in the middle of Passover on Friday, next Friday Shabbat. Reminder that you can become a friend of mine and go over to Rick's Coffee House. Join that group. And every Monday night, it's a free concert online. Many of whom are my young former students, not so young anymore, and they're very talented, and you shouldn't miss it. It's a way to experience joy. So, good night, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.